All right, so what's up, everybody? It's what, Monday night, right? Yeah, it's Monday night, and I just want to talk about the Freemasons and their grasp on the military. All right, well, at least the Army. Can't speak on other branches, but I was in the Army for 4 years, so I know about the Army. All right, I had a user on here ask me for proof about what I was saying about the Freemason influence in the Army. And I really don't have the proof because when I got out as a corporal, which is the E4, there's two separate ranks when it comes to E4 in the Army. A specialist and a corporal. And a corporal, you're basically a sergeant, but they pay you as a specialist to do a sergeant's job. Okay, they wanted to promote me to sergeant. I wasn't having it. I didn't go to no promotion boards or nothing like that because I didn't want to be in charge of soldiers. All right. But yeah, I got out as the E4, and but what I know, there's two sides of the Army. There's the enlisted side and the officer side. All right. And I was deployed with a staff sergeant, which is an E6, and I noticed him studying some Freemason shit, right? When we were in Afghanistan during some downtime, he was reading a book with the logo on the cover and shit, the Freemason logo, right? And so I didn't really ask him about Freemasonry. At that time, I didn't really, that's not really where my head was at, but I asked him, I said, well, what's up with that shit right there? What are you studying? You know what I mean? And he said, he's trying to become a Freemason because he said you'll learn about it as your Army career progresses, but basically, he said that he didn't call it a secret society, he called it a fraternity, all right? And he said Freemasons are basically a fraternity, and in order to get your E8, which is a master sergeant or a first sergeant in the Army, you got to be part of the Freemasons. And in the military, we have a thing, it's almost like your resume from the military. It's called a ERB, which is a enlisted record brief, all right? And there's also a DD-214 when you get out. That's your discharge paperwork. Both of those have a M on them if you're a Mason, if you're a Freemason. I've seen a couple ERBs that had those on there, all right? And long story short, there's a part of the Army called S1, all right? And I was like fucking around with this chick that worked for S1, which is like a paper pusher job in the Army. And I was kicking it with her one day, and I just happened to glance at a couple ERBs. I wanted to see what some of these first sergeants and the sergeant major in my unit, what kind of credentials they had and shit. I was looking at their awards on there and stuff, and I asked her what that shit was. I noticed the M on there, and that's what she told me. She said, "Oh, that means they're Masons." I don't really know what it is, but it's something it's some kind of club that E8s and above are in, right? And it makes perfect sense because on the enlisted side, E8 and E9 are the key leadership roles, all right? Like, they try to tell you in the Army, like, oh, NCOs are the backbone of the Army, and all those E5 and E6s, sergeants and staff sergeants that are out there with the soldiers are the backbone of the Army, which may be true, but all they're really doing is relaying orders from Freemasons, all right? And this user said something about Eagle Scouts, and Eagle Scouts is the only type of fraternity that helps you move up in the Army. And I think he misunderstood me. Okay, Eagle Scouts, you can go in as a private E2 instead of a private E1. It's a higher pay grade. It's like $40 more a month. Okay, when I went into the Army, I was an E1. That's the lowest you can go as far as rank, okay? Because I didn't have any, credentials. I'm not an Eagle Scout, nothing like that. But if you were an Eagle Scout, you can join the Army as an E2. Okay, that's the only benefit there is to being an Eagle Scout when it comes to the Army. Now, the reason why I'm sort of concerned about um the Freemason shit being intertwined with the army is because we all know that some really evil men in our history were Freemasons, all right? And if you try to look up like your local Freemason lodge or whatever, like they actually have websites for different chapters of Freemason lodges or whatever, okay? And which it's a secret society, so I don't know why they got websites. But anyways, they paint this picture of themselves as being good men who believe in a higher power and all that. But the Freemasons that are higher in the ranks, the 31st, 32nd, 33rd degree Freemasons that are up there, you know, at the top of the pyramid, all right? Like, they don't have good intentions for us. And like JFK said in his secret society speech, you know, he gave a speech on this shit, and he said that you know, they're gonna push their agenda by ways of infiltration instead of invasion, which is what they're already doing with, you know, some of our shit we have on TV. They're programming us through whichever means they can, okay? And it's working on a lot of people, which is why there's a lot less people awake than asleep right now, okay? And you know, they have a vision for this world, and Satan has gotten into their souls and has led them to believe that they're like the gatekeepers of humanity, and they got to eliminate all these people and carry out this big depopulation operation in order to make our world a more manageable place, okay? And you know, over my dead body is some shit like that gonna happen, alright? Like, as long as I'm alive, if they, you know, if shit starts hitting the fan and they try to implement martial law and all that, you better believe I got like a whole bunch of people behind me already, and I'm behind all them too. And strength in numbers, like I've said before, you know, there's so many people in our world, yet a tiny little group of people run our world, and they're fucking it up. And something needs to be done about them, okay? And I'm not saying go do what that guy in Norway did and go out and shoot people and kill people and shit. Nah. They want to wage a war against us. We can beat them psychologically before we beat them physically, alright? We're already fucking with them. You know, if anyone up there has come across my videos, they're probably shitting their pants right now. They're like, oh fuck, you know. And there's a few other soldiers, American soldiers. There's not that many. There's like a handful of them that have spoken out against the military and against the war in Afghanistan. You can find them on YouTube and find them on the internet. All right. There's a small group of us that have spoken out against this shit. Most soldiers, most veterans either don't know what's going on because they're not very observant and very insightful, and they don't really figure out what's going on around them, or they've just been brainwashed into believing that the ways they were taught in the military are right, and they're not, especially the whole shitty attitude towards civilians, okay? Like I've said before, there's plenty of guys I was in the army with that would say, oh, fucking civilians, okay? Those young kids are getting brainwashed into thinking that they're better than civilians because it's going to make their job a lot easier when it comes time for martial law, alright? And not only that, but the way the Afghani people were treated by our soldiers when I was over in Afghanistan for 16 months, it was sickening. Those people, a lot of the soldiers were encouraged by their leadership to treat the civilians like shit because, you know, there's this mentality in the Army and the Marines especially that, you know, intimidation, you can control people with intimidation, alright? Like, I think, to me, Afghanistan was like a practice run for us for martial law here, because we would go up into villages, people were minding their own fucking business. There ain't no one, you know. I'm a pretty observant person, all right, and I wasn't getting no vibes, you know, bad vibes. You know, there wasn't anything wrong going on in this village, and our soldiers are throwing people around and butt stroking people. That means hitting someone with the butt of your weapon, with the butt of your gun. All right, for no reason, because it was funny, giving them pork and telling them it was something else because they know that they're Muslim and they don't eat pork, and basically making a joke out of their religion. You know what I mean? Like, the United States Army, I can't speak on the Air Force or the Marines or the Navy because I wasn't in those branches, but from what I know about how fluid the military runs, it's probably the same in those branches too, okay? The United States Army is ran by Freemasons, okay? All the people, all the top brass with rank in the Army are Freemasons, whether they'll admit to it or not. General Petraeus, he's a Freemason, all right? That's why he was in charge of Iraq and Afghanistan for a while. And, no, I don't think he was in charge of Afghanistan, but I overheard a couple of generals talking about some Freemasonry shit when I was over there. I also overheard a general that I was doing personal security detail for. I overheard him, and I quote, let me think of his exact words. It was something along the lines of, we need to start on this pipeline already so we can get the fuck out of here. He was on the phone with someone in Washington D.C. All right, and he was pissed off because we had like 5 or 6 guys killed that day, and he slipped up. I was in the room, and he even said, he looked at me and he said, "Specialist Bickle, you don't repeat anything you heard." But guess what? I'm not in the Army anymore, okay? So I don't give a fuck. He basically said, we need to secure what we need to secure for this fucking pipeline so we can get the fuck out of here, because this place is a piece of shit and the people here are pieces of shit. That's what this 3-star general said, all right? You see generals on TV and they look all like they're a certain type of person, but I really can't think of anyone in the Army that I met that was way up there in the ranks that I liked. I could see through pretty much all of them, okay? There was a couple, let me think. There was a chaplain I met, which is the Army's version of a preacher or pastor or whatever. He was a 2-star general, and that was probably one of the nicest people I'd ever met in the Army. He was a really nice guy, you know what I mean? And other than him, a lot of those people up there, just care about themselves. They came in knowing that once they get to the top, their life will be good. Okay, generals have access to fucking airplanes and helicopters whenever they want. They get the biggest house on an Army base. You know what I mean? And they put up, usually most of them have been in for 20, 30 years before they reach that status. But once they reach it, they've been so badly brainwashed, and the Army isn't a job, it's a lifestyle to them. And it's just crazy, man. But I'm almost running out of time, so I'm gonna go. But yes, Freemasons run the Army. I don't care what anyone tells me. I did 4 years of that shit, 16 months in Afghanistan. I know it for a fact, alright? So with that being said, hope everyone has a good night, and I'll be back with another video either later or tomorrow. Alright? Peace out.